Old Trafford, as we go into the season 2013-14, we do so as the rulers of English football. The impossible dream made possible by the greatest British manager ever, Sir Alex Ferguson.
First of all, it's a thank you to Manchester United, not just the directors, not just the medical staff, the coaching staff, the players, the supporters, it's all of you. You have been the most fantastic experience of my life. Thank you. I have been very fortunate. I've been able to manage some of the greatest players in the country, let alone Manchester United. And all of these players here today have represented our club the proper way and won a championship in a fantastic fashion. Well done to the players. My retirement doesn't mean the end of my life with the club. I'll be able to now enjoy watching them rather than suffer with them. But if you think about it, those last minute goals, the comebacks, even the defeats are all part of this great football club of ours, and it's been an unbelievable experience for all of us, so thank you for that. The players, I wish the players every success in the future. You know how good you are, you know the jersey you're wearing, you know what it means to everyone here, and don't ever let yourself down. The expectation is always there. So I'm going home, well, I'm going inside for a while. I just want to say thank you once again from all the Ferguson family. They're all up there. 11 grandchildren. Thank you. Thank you.
That was 7 years ago now. And you know, that's kind of a perfect example of how time can just fly by in an instant. But you know, I look back at Fergie's retirement and I often ask myself, why couldn't these guys step out the door after him? Help me! So just to clear things up, yes, I am a Man United fan. I am a glory supporter, as most rival fans will call us, but that's okay, because at the end of the day, I'm happy that I started supporting this club. Not because of the fact that we used to win pretty much everything back in the day, but because, well, my dad got me into football, and he supported Man United, so it kind of just goes along with the family tradition, if you know what I mean. And just like pretty much everyone around the world, I know just how big this club is. I know just how big the name Manchester United is. And whilst that fact still hasn't changed today, here in 2020, there's no denying the awful decline that we've been on pretty much ever since Sir Alex retired 7 odd years ago now. And it kind of breaks my heart looking back at Sir Alex's farewell speech, because one of the things that he told us fans to do was this.
Your job now is to stand by our new manager.
Yeah, that didn't happen. That did not happen whatsoever. David Moyes, the chosen one, selected by Sir Alex himself, was gone from the club April time, not even at the end of the season. He wasn't even here for a full season. And you know, when looking back on that, it kind of feels like I failed Sir Alex. But you know what? No, I don't think we failed this club. I don't think the fans have failed this club. Hell, I don't even think the managers have failed this club. Moyes, Van Gaal, Mourinho, Solskjaer the current time. No, I believe that none of those managers have failed this club. In my opinion, I think in most other people's opinions as well, it all goes back down to one certain group of owners that we just can't seem to get rid of, no matter how much we ask for it, how much we beg for the inevitable well, I hope it's the inevitable. No matter how much we hope for it, we just can't get rid of them. And I'm talking about the glazed donuts themselves. So we've known the Glazers for around 17 years now. It was Malcolm Glazer back in 2003 who began accumulating shares in Manchester United before taking full ownership of the club by the end of 2005. However, tragically, back in May 2014, after long illness following a stroke, he had passed away. And after that, Manchester United would then be owned by his 6 children, Avram, Joel, Kevin, Brian, Darcy, and Edward Glazer. However, it's Joel and Avram who more or less take charge of the day-to-day runnings of the club, and that's more or less been happening since Malcolm's stroke back in April 2006. So how was Malcolm Glazer able to take over the club so quickly? Well, in 2004, Alex Ferguson ended up having fallings out with businessmen John McNear and JP McCannis. The pair owned 28.7% of shares in the club and were also invested in Irish racehorse Rock of Gibraltar along with Ferguson. An argument over stud rights led to the businessmen wanting out of the club, and that's when the Glazers ended up buying their shares back in May 2005. Now, someone who may be finding this information out for the first time in their life, whilst also having no knowledge of who the Glazers are and what they've done to the club, may instantly just think, you know what, that's just life, falling outs end up happening all the time, especially when it comes to businesses, stuff like that is going to happen. But little did we know that that would be the beginning of our downfall. You see, when the Glazers took over fully back in 2005, we were more or less debt-free, but the takeover deal advised on by Ed Woodward reportedly saddled the club with over 500 million worth of debt. 500 million! One of the main reasons this ended up occurring was due to the fact that Malcolm Glazer was financing much of the takeover using loans, using a leveraged buyout plan rather than the money we already had, much to the unhappiness of the fans, obviously. And as the years have gone by, multiple reports have surfaced saying that the takeover has cost the club well over 1 billion in interest and other fees combined. Now, with the club losing all that money, you would think that, okay, there should be a decline happening to the club due to financial issues. I mean, look at what's happened to clubs like Portsmouth and Bolton and Bury especially during this past decade. However, that was never the case. That never ended up happening to Manchester United. That goes back to what I was saying at the beginning here. The whole world knows this club. Everyone knows just how big this club is. And thanks to huge and varied commercial contracts signed during the Glazer era, club revenue has more than doubled since 2005. Hell, United were named the 3rd most valuable football club in the world by Forbes last year. But that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter at all when the club is still in debt by 500 million. And to make matters worse, instead of paying this debt off, the Glazers are too busy milking everything that the club has financially. They are constantly taking money out of the club, constantly making the club suffer because of this. When was the last time Old Trafford had any kind of maintenance put onto it, any good amount of money put onto it? Stadium is suffering because of it. It needs fixes. The club itself needs fixes. This debt needs to be paid off, but we're too busy giving these bastard owners dividends every single year. In fact, a total of 78 million has been paid to the Glazers since 2013. Neither Liverpool or Man City pay dividends to their owners. That's a big fucking problem when you realise that those two teams I've just mentioned are at the top of the table battling for the Premier League title, whilst we're like, what, 30-40 points below them? Now, City, of course, is the far-fetched project of a sheik from a oil-rich country. I should know, because I've been living in that country on and off for the past few years now. It's got an international image to curate when endeavouring to do the right thing in Manchester by the supporters and deprived neighbourhoods around the club's stadium. And Mansour's executives have gone about the project intelligently, appointing consultants at the beginning to assess the takeover and the most considered future shaping of a successful football club. But I've got to respect how the Sheikh has put the club's future and success first before anything else, unlike the Glazers, who, as stated before, are constantly taking money out of the club. It's not your money to take. You can't keep doing this. It doesn't help how we haven't got a director of football. That's constantly been used surrounding our club for years now, about how we've been trying to appoint a director of football to the club, as I said, for years at this point, but the deals and negotiations never end up working, and we end up just stuck with Ed Woodward at the helm of the club. That's an issue, because Ed Woodward knows fuck all about football. He is a former banker, and he will always be a banker. He knows nothing about football. Louis van Gaal knew what he was on about when asked about Ed Woodward, and how he said he was a former banker and knows nothing about football. And if this isn't a perfect clip to truly show what Ed Woodward thinks of the club, I don't know what is.
It's again, you've got a fantastic academy that brings through players, and that conveyor belt you keep going to help fund things at the club, which is fantastic.
Why are you the way that you are? Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way. I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
It's fantastic.
There's actually been an image going around all over Twitter these past couple of weeks, basically showing how the Glazers operate. First of all, hire a new manager. Now granted, David Moyes, I'll let that one slide, but when it comes to guys like Van Gaal and Mourinho, yeah, that makes sense. Make 3 to 4 signings that they want, more or less what we did. Get Champions League football, okay, Van Gaal did that in his first season, as did Mourinho by winning the Europa League, which gave us automatic Champions League qualification. Then make no signings, as well as release a search the DOF Director of Football article. Yes, okay, yeah, well, that checks out, that checks out. Get sick because of a lack of reinforcements, yep, without question. Van Gaal's biggest signing in his second season was Schweinsteiger, who sadly was way out of his prime at that point, and Mourinho bought Fred. And then last but not least, the coup de grace, sack the manager for poor performance. Yes, blame the manager, when we all know for an absolute fact that yes, the manager does deserve some of the blame, but most of it, 85, maybe 90% of it, should fall on the Glazers' shoulders, not the managers. And for the longest time in this transfer window, I think most of us were pretty scared that that cycle was due to repeat itself, because we literally did nothing this August. Nothing at all. Meanwhile, Chelsea are acting like they're playing FIFA career mode here with all the signings that they're making. They're actually dedicated to fixing up their squad to become title contenders with Liverpool and Man City. And don't give me all that crap about how they had a transfer ban last year, so they had much more money to spend. We are one of the richest clubs in England. And coming out and saying how we can't do any business because of this pandemic is not an excuse, whilst when every other club is perfectly fine with doing transfer business. But luckily, things seem to be turning around for us now with the signing of Van de Beek from Ajax. And I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty hyped for him. I'm excited to see him playing out there alongside Pogba and Fernandes. We've got a good midfield now. I'm very excited for it. But sadly, as good as Van de Beek is, that's not going to be enough. There's still so many other places of improvement that we need to make for the team if we want to become title contenders alongside Chelsea. And sadly, the club just doesn't seem to care. And ultimately, that's the Glazers doing. Because they don't care about this club. They only care about themselves. And Woodward has even said in the past that they're in it for the long run. They're not in it for the long run, or at least not for the club. They're in it for the long run for themselves. And that is despicable. Serious changes need to happen if we want to call ourselves a top club again. Just like what we were when Alex was in charge. Serious changes need to happen. We need a proper director of football, and most importantly, we need the Glazers out of this club. Hashtag Glazers out. But sadly, I don't think it's going to happen. Anytime soon at least. And that's the saddest part of it. There's nothing we can do. And I feel so sorry for Solskjaer, because if he does end up going down the same path as Van Gaal and Mourinho did, without question, all the blame will be put on him. The Glazers will do their damn best to make sure that the blame is put on him and he is sacked as a result of it. When we all know, deep down inside, that the Glazers, Ed Woodward, they are the problem, not the manager. And as much as I hate to say it, as long as we have the Glazers in charge, the cycle is due to repeat itself. We will forever be doomed to failure for as long as these bastards remain at the top.